For this video, we're going to teach you how to convert extension springs into torsion springs. You will have a set of cables, 2 bearing plates, they are marked left and right, a center bearing, a spring anchor bracket, 2 drums, they are marked left and right. Red is their left hand side and the black will be on the right hand side. 1 or 2 springs depending on the door, and they are also marked left and right. Now some of the springs say left hand or right hand, but they will also have red or black paint on them, and the red always goes on the left. Okay, then you have all the bolts to put everything together. Okay, so we lift the door. As we lift the door, you can see the tension going off of the extension spring. Okay, so what I want to do, so when I come up here, lift the door all the way, I want to vice grip it up, because now the tension's off the spring and you can easily unhook the spring without your door falling. So now let's unhook the spring. So what we're going to do, untie it, disconnect it from here, from your track, unloop your cable, and as long as we're up here, we'll change out the cable. Okay, attach your cable to your little nubbin for your bottom bracket and run your cable up at least a couple of rollers. That way it doesn't get caught as you're rolling it down. Let's go to the other side, we'll change out the other cable, disconnect the other spring. Okay, now I'm going to change the cable up here. Next thing we're going to do is lower the door. So I'm going to bring Tommy over here and he can help me lower the door. This door's heavy and you have no tension on it, so remember, as you lower, it will get heavier and heavier. On your bearing plates, you have a left and a right. So make sure that your bearing, when you put your drum on there, it always pushes against your bearing, not this way so it can pop out. You always want it pushing in so it can't pop out. So with that said, we're going to put this right here. So let's remove the pulley. And we'll replace it with the bearings. Will go right in the holes. Make sure this is up against the wall. Okay. Same thing to the other side. So let's take this off. We'll put the bearing plate on. Again, make sure You always want to put a lag. It's important you put a lag in the top so your bearing plate doesn't wiggle back and forth when your door is going open. So that lag in the top I just put in up here will keep your bearing plate from going back and forth. Okay. What you're going to need is the parts you need to put your drum or torsion assembly together. So what you have is your bracket. When you put your bracket up, your bracket is cut at the bottom so when the door raises, so it doesn't go like this, the longer part always goes on top so your door can go by it. Okay? So that'll be up like that. So you have your red drum, which is left, the black drum, which is right. Your bearing, you could put either left or right. Your 3 lags you're going to put in. I'm going to put on my ladder because that's where I need them. You need your 2 9/6 or 3/8 nuts and bolts to put your springs together. Again, your springs, you have a left and a right spring. The black one will go on the right hand side. The red one will go on the left. Slide it right down to the middle. I like to put a pair of vice grips on my shaft at this point because you're going to need them later. Okay, make sure you put your bearing on. Your other spring and your drum. And put your drum on far enough. You notice they're both about 2 feet in. So when I'm up on my ladder trying to get it in there, you can see the ends of the holes where I'm putting them into the bearing plates. Now, the bearing to flange is on this side. So when you put it in there, it fits inside your spring. Or if you try to put it on the wrong side, it's not going to fit in. Okay, so put that one in. So when you put this up, it's going to go like this. So the bottom of the door, the top of the door won't hit the bottom of this. So it's going to go just like this. This will make fairly snug for now, but we're not going to tighten it up yet. You see red nuts here. They're a safety nut. Anything you see red on a garage door, you don't want to mess with the average person. So our torsion spring is together. Next, we're going to put it up into place. This is a little bit tricky, but my easiest way to do it is I'll set the torsion spring balanced up on my ladder. I'll walk up my ladder. Try not to carry that up your ladder. Saves you a little bit of work. So if you push it through one side all the way, and as you push it around to the left, right in the hole, you have to go far enough back. You pass the other side and into the other hole. Okay, now my holes are already pre-drilled. To put this up, it's important to get your spring tube level. Okay, all the way across. What I like to do, I put one leg in. So after I get the top leg in, I like to walk to the back of the garage and make sure that your spring tube is level. Make sure it's not dipping, smiling, or up too high. That's very important because it saves a lot of wear and tear on your bearings. So I'm going to put my 3-inch lag in. The 3-inch lag, you always put at the bottom. The reason you put the 3-inch lag at the bottom is because when you wind your spring, okay, it puts a lot of pressure on this coming up. So you want make sure you get a lot of meat with that 3-inch spring. That went in easy because it's already been in. Now make sure that your bolts are nice and tight there. Next thing, while you're right here, look down at both ways and make sure you're not in or you're not out. Again, it's like being level. Then go to the left-hand drum. It's important that you always set the left-hand drum first. Okay, this is a point where you can center your shaft, make sure you have the same amount of shaft hanging out each side of the bearing plates. But there's a slot that you can put your cable into, okay, and make sure your cable stays on line. There's little grooves for the cable to run into, okay, and then you can set your set screws. Now when you set your set screws, you want to make sure not to over tighten them, as what will happen is it will dent the shaft and make it uneven. So just kind of make sure they're snug but tight enough not to slip. And make sure that your cable's nice and tight on the left-hand side. Then go do the same for the right-hand side, and then you can wind your spring. As you wind your spring, you can see the little white line there. Each line that I'm counting right here is one turn. So if you lose count on your turns, you can always go back and count your white lines. Typically, because the drum is a 4-inch drum in diameter, 12 inch in circumference, each turn is 1 foot. If you have a 7-high door, you want to go 7 turns or 7 complete turns plus about a half to a full turn past that. Depends on the balance of the door. Also, it's important that you make sure when you're done winding your spring, always test and make sure your set screws are tight enough, okay, and make sure your door is balanced. As you can see, the door here is pretty balanced.